Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Voice of Guo on June 10th, 2020. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and click the bell so you know the next time we upload a video. And don't forget to leave a comment down below and let us know what you think what is happening in China. Now, I want to bring your attention to what is happening in China and the currently happening the natural disaster. A great thunderstorm has hit the southern part of China, and let's listen in on exactly what's happening.
Natural disasters and man-made disasters continue in China. The African swine fever, CCP virus, and other epidemics are not yet over, and floods in South China have occurred again recently. According to observations by the Ministry of Water Resources, there are currently 92 rivers in southern China, including ones in Guangxi, Guangdong, Hunan, Jiangxi, Fujian, Guizhou, Yunnan, which exceeds the flood warning line. Among them, the Xinjiang and Beijiang have seen their first flood this year. The recent heavy rain in Guangdong has also caused more than 20,000 people to evacuate. According to the Emergency Management Department of China's National Defense Office, 200 counties in 45 cities in 8 provinces in the south, including Jiangxi, Hunan, and Guangxi, have experienced continuous heavy rain since June 2nd. So far, nearly 2.63 million have been affected and nearly 300,000 people have to be transferred urgently. More than 1,300 houses collapsed, tens of thousands of houses were damaged to varying degrees, at least 9 people died, and the direct economic loss was around 4 billion RMB.
All right, thank you for the reporting. Now let's look at some other details regarding the damages that was done by the thunderstorm.
A heavy thunderstorm arrived in Guangdong, China, and paralyzed the entire high-speed railway network, which has been touted and praised numerously by the Chinese Communist Party. 32 windows of Guangzhou Railway Station now only process refunds. The way of requesting refunds is overwhelming as the railway is unable to operate currently. The scene is comparable to the Chinese New Year's, and people are only getting refunds.
Okay, on to the next news regarding people practicing earthquake drills in mainland China.
Recently, a series of photos of earthquake practice drills from various regions in China are being circulated on Weibo, a Chinese social media platform. These photos have alerted and agitated people in the mainland because the CCP also conducted drills in the months before the outbreak of the CCP virus. Based on the new drills posted on the internet, people are speculating that the CCP is planning on something, and it seems that something bad will happen again this time.
Alright, very good. Now let's look at some fake news coverage that the CCP has done regarding the flooding in Guangxi province.
People's Daily covers up floods in Guangxi. Guangdong, Guangxi, Hunan, and Sichuan have been raining for several days. Many cities have been flooded, roads have collapsed, and landslides have occurred in some rural areas. But news from WeChat and Douyin are still advocating earning 5,000 yuan per day in store sales, indicating peace and joy to fool people. The real truth is that floods have made many people homeless, and many seniors and children are washed away and disappeared.
Okay, now let's bring our attention to what is happening in Hong Kong and the protest.
A year ago, on June 9th, 1.03 million Hong Kong people took to the streets to fight against the unjust law of Fugitive Offenders Amendment Bill. After a year, as of yesterday, Hong Kong people continued their 5 major demands and the June 9th Hong Kong District 1-year anniversary march, shouting slogans and lighting up phones to show the world that they have never forgotten their purposes. Participants vowed to never give up. You may not know if your actions changed anything, but you will regret it if you just don't do it. The Hong Kong police used pepper spray and other tough means to the crowd and arrested 53 people. The Hong Kong march started at 6:30 p.m. last night. The crowd began to gather in Chater Garden and the central Yangtze River area. More than 1,000 people were shouting slogans such as Independence for Hong Kong, National Self-Improvement along Queen's Road Central. And some people displayed banners printed with words such as Hong Kong Independence. At 7 p.m., everyone held up flashlights on their phones to symbolize hope and formed a wave of lights. Participants wear casual clothes without helmets, protection goggles, and other equipment. The atmosphere was calm. However, the Hong Kong police still used pepper spray against the peaceful march to disperse protesters and journalists several times, resulting in rising public dissatisfaction. At nearly 10 p.m., the police fired pepper bombs and caused chaos at the scene. In addition to using force against the public, Hong Kong police are also suspected of obstructing journalists. At nearly 9 p.m., the police took 2 protesters into Mass Transit Railway Station exit to conduct a search and blocked the entrance to prevent reporters from capturing pictures, causing dissatisfaction. The clearing continued until midnight. The Hong Kong police arrested 53 people for illegal assembly and participation in unauthorized assembly. Some report that among the people arrested, there were 2 council members of Yuanliang district, including Du Jialun, and 2 other people wearing reflective vests trying to perform first aid. Everyone arrested were eventually tied up and being taken away by the bus.
Okay, very funny how nobody in the West talk about the protests in Hong Kong, but everybody was focused on their attention on George Floyd. Now, let's have some more news regarding what is happening for Hong Kong protesters.
An anti-extradition law anniversary protest was held yesterday on June 9th. One thing that didn't change was how the police mistreated the reporter and the people. More than 53 protesters were arrested, beaten up, and insulted right after the Commissioner of Police Deng Bingqiang apologized to the general public. An online reporter posted a story of a woman being dragged into a building during the midnight Queen's Road Central arrested operation. When asked by the reporter, the police responded, she had private needs. While arguing with the police whether the woman had help from a female officer, a reporter from Stan News chain called up and was immediately told to leave the scene by the police, who then backed off when Chang stated their violation of the police general orders. Meanwhile, another police officer in mask called Chang a dirty bastard. Infuriated by the name calling, Chang requested their ID code but ignored by their commander. The frontline police are mistreating reporters again. 1 month after Commissioner Deng personally apologized to 4 union representatives claiming to improve the level of standards of the Hong Kong police.
Alright, thank you for the reporting. Now I want to bring your attention back to mainland China regarding some statement made by the Education Ministry of China.
The Ministry of Education of China announced on the official website on April 9th that, considering the pandemic and the relationship between mainland China and Taiwan, it decided to suspend the project of Chinese students studying in Taiwan in 2020. Chen Xin, who was applying for the master's degree in Taiwan, was one of the students affected by this policy. Therefore, she applied to the Ministry of Education for information disclosure, requesting the basis of making this policy and when the project would be resumed. In addition, according to China's regulation on the openness of government information, the Ministry of Education should reply within 15 working days after receiving the application, which was supposed to be the beginning of May. However, Chen Xin didn't receive a reply letter until Tuesday, that is May the 9th, and the overtime reply didn't bring her satisfactory news either. The Ministry of Education replied that the content she had asked about involved state secrets, therefore would not be disclosed. She also asked about the connection between protecting the legitimate rights and the interests of students from mainland China going back to Taiwan to study and suspending them going to Taiwan for study, and when the policy will be restarted. The Ministry of Education declared that the above-mentioned problems belong to the category of consultation, and there's no specific government information from Ministry of Education, and asked her to refer to relevant reports. In this regard, Chen Xin said that the Government Information Disclosure Regulation stipulates that the state secrets, business secrets, and personal privacy information shall not be disclosed by the government. However, she believes that if the relevant policies are issued within a written document, they should not be included in the state secrets. She also pointed out that referring the application problem to consulting was a typical way of Chinese government to avoid disclosing public information. She said that one of the purposes of applying for information disclosure was to make Chinese government and Chinese society pay attention to the rights and interests of students groups from mainland China. Obviously, she was quite disappointed with the response from Chinese government.
Okay, thank you very much for the reporting. Now let's bring our attention to what is happening with the WHO.
Mainland China private fundraising for WHO had poor turnout, raising only 33,000 HK dollar in 24 days. WHO chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus was criticized by many for helping China to cover up the CCP virus outbreak. Yet China continues to back up WHO, with government donations in March and April totaled up to at least $50 million, about 387 million Hong Kong dollar. As for private organizations, last month, China Population Welfare Foundation started a fundraising campaign named WHO COVID-19 Fight Together Fund, China in Action, calling for private donations to support WHO to handle the pandemic. Only over 9,000 people donated less than 30,000 RMB, about 33,000 HK dollar, in the past 24 days. Last month, China Population Welfare Foundation claimed that, as the only partner of WHO in China, it started fundraising for WHO COVID-19 Fight Together Fund, China in Action. It hoped to gather funding to assist organizations such as WHO, UNICEF, and CEPI in helping the world fight against the pandemic. Some people noticed the poor turnout of this fundraising campaign. Starting from May 18th, up till 8 a.m. this morning, it only raised 29,328 RMB, with a total of 9,309 people donating. Some people in Taiwan noticed that on Sina mini charity page, some fundraising programs for homeless cats and dogs raised 20 times more than the WHO campaign.
Alright, thank you for the reporting. Now we can see that the WHO is getting less and less popular. Thank God the United States dropped out. Now, the final news. Let's look at the former football player Hao Haibin, who is pretty much the Michael Jordan of China, and what has happened to him on Chinese website.
Former football player was completely blocked by the CCP in mainland China. The data of national striker became 404. Chinese retired football star Hao Haidong is supporting the whistleblower movement led by the exiled Chinese real estate tycoon Guo Wengui. Haidong read out the constitution and criticized the CCP's crime at the founding ceremony of the new federal state of China on 4th of June. The CCP has blocked all news about him as well as his moments in the past, including the record of being the most goal scorer in the history of national football. The relevant information can only be found through foreign websites. Hao Haidong and his wife Ye Zhaoying, former badminton player for the national team, both appeared at the founding ceremony of the new federal state of China. Ye Zhaoying's information has also been heavily censored. Chinese web pages about the most goal-scoring football player in history or the Badminton World Championship in 1995 are either 404 not found or a blank entry. It seems the CCP wants to make it look like they never existed. In a YouTube video released recently, the leader of the whistleblower movement, Guo Wengui, pointed out that the son of Hao Haidong, who played as the defender for the Serbian Super League, had been dropped from the team after an impressive debut performance on May 30. The heavy-handed influence was from Beijing.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's all of the news I want to present to you today. See you next time and stay safe. Bye bye.